Welcome to World of Marketing Podcast, a Foster Web Marketing production. Here's your host, Tom Foster.
I just recorded my 124th episode last week. Even got a new microphone and everything. Look at this.
Look at that. Did you hear that, everybody? Here we are on the World of Marketing with the man, Steve Richardson, who just said he just finished recording his 124th podcast. His own podcast, right?
Yes. I've been doing it since beginning of 2016.
Well, you are like always on it. That's one thing about you, Richardson, my friend, that you are always on it, always grinding away, always doing stuff. And the podcast is one of them. And you got on that early. Took me a little, took me, I think we're on our 80 some odd, we're in our 80s, but anyway. But this is not about your podcast. This is about something entirely different. We will do one about your podcast here again, because,
yes.
But is this your first time on the World of Marketing or your second time?
We tried to do it a year ago, December.
Oh, right.
But there were some technical difficulties. That was right. I said, maybe we shouldn't wait till 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon to do podcast. And that's exactly what we ended up doing.
That was when we were
you still were live. You're in your offices.
We were still live, and we were still working out the kinks, but now it's Zoom. It's so easy. Right? Well, thank you for agreeing to come back, and thank you for being flexible with my schedule. But I wanted everybody to hear from Steve Richardson. He's got a great story. Steve is one of our what I call like one of our power user do-it-yourself clients. He's been with me for 10 years?
11 years. I think I first reached out in March of 2010.
Yep.
And my foster site launched in August. So yeah, going on 11 years.
Yep. And we thank you for it. And also we are, and this is also sponsored by our good friend, Dave Freeze of Business Black Ops. He sponsored this.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't know you had sponsors now.
We do have sponsors, and Business Black Ops, because I interview so many smart people from Business Black Ops, they end up sponsoring a lot of them.
Okay.
So Ty Crandall, who I just did last week, sponsored by Ariane, was sponsored by Business Black Ops. And here you are, because we are, not only are you a client, but you're also a fellow Business Black Ops guy, warlord. We're warlords.
We're allowed to tell people that. I mean, it is Business Black Ops, Tom.
I know, but we're allowed to brag a little bit about it because, if you pass muster, you might be able to join us. We're a small group, but Dave's always looking at fresh meat, if you will, for fun. And we do have a lot of fun. We get together a couple times a year. It's a big, giant mastermind group. But when, we work on projects together, and one of the things I've just known Steve for so many years, and he's always just done so many good things. Like I said, he's a DSS Power User. He's always added his own content to the website. He's learned how to do his SEO. He is in a pretty competitive area up there in New Jersey, right?
Yeah, it is competitive in terms of, the number of lawyers. It's the old joke. Why does New Jersey have the most lawyers and California have the most toxic waste dumps? It's because California got first pick. But there are a lot of lawyers here in New Jersey, but surprisingly many that don't even have websites, which continues.
Really? Still?
Yes.
I didn't think that existed.
Now they are at least wising up and not having their business email hosted by Gmail or Yahoo or Hotmail or AOL. They are getting custom domains. And the first thing I do when I see a custom domain, let's take a look at their website. And I type that into a browser and I get a parked page from the domain name registrar.
Well, don't tell them about the web then.
Yeah, that'll be my secret. Yeah.
Yeah, keep it to yourself. So you practice traffic and bankruptcy and student loan.
Loan workouts, and sort of debt restructuring. I'm one of the few attorneys really that there are a lot of firms that do collection, but they're representing creditors. I actually represent debtors. There are instances where people just want to work out payment arrangements. They don't want to file bankruptcy. So I'm one of the few people that actually negotiate
on
deals
their behalf.
Right. And I was just talking to someone today who was he kept calling, attorneys, and nobody could help him or really did that until they typed information subpoena and a couple other words into Google, and up popped my website, and they found me. And that's because I'm one of the few guys that actually does that and
you
talks.
have the content on your website that says
Yes.
that's what you do. Imagine that. That's just amazing how that works.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's fantastic. And like, you're right. There's not a whole lot of people that do that. And frankly, there should be more, but not in your area. And so that's the trick to getting these kinds of cases and clients that you want, is DSS and adding content to the website that your perfect clients are searching for. And especially when you're in such a niche, such a great niche, you got two niches. You got two kind of broad areas and two niches, right? With the student loan, that's pretty nichey, isn't it?
Well, it is. There aren't a lot of student loan attorneys who really know what they're talking about with this stuff. There's a national network of them that I'm a part of. But in New Jersey, there are just 4 or 5 of us. And most of them are in North Jersey, which I'm happy with. So,
and you help people restructure the payments on their student loans. That's pretty much what that is.
Well, debt restructuring, whether it's student loans or some other debt that they have, a large amount, it came out of, sometimes people will come to me and they've got a problem with a particular creditor, and they go to a bankruptcy attorney and they say, well, you file bankruptcy, you'll get rid of that $25,000 debt. Well, that may be the only creditor they have, and they don't really want to file bankruptcy. And I'm like, okay, well, what if you could work out affordable payments with that creditor and start making payments, and then you don't have to file bankruptcy, and they're not levying on your bank account or garnishing your wages or anything else because you have a deal with them. So that came out of that.
It doesn't go on your credit, right? Doesn't go on your credit.
Well, it's still on your credit. These are instances really where it's defaulted, it's gone to suit, things like that. But once it's paid and marked paid, then that helps.
Yeah, for sure. And that's better than bankruptcy any day.
Yes. So it grew out of a bankruptcy alternative where people had a particular creditor, one real problem creditor, where they owed really more than $10,000, $12,000, where it really paid to have an attorney help them.
Hey, isn't St. Patrick's Day coming up?
Yes.
I usually
17th every year.
I usually see you on St. Patrick's Day. That's why I just thought of that, because I always think of you on St. Patrick's Day, because for some reason over the past many years, we happen to be together and you are sometimes in town.
Well, you had an academy, I think, a 2-day workshop or something.
Maybe that's why
that straddled St. Patrick's Day, and you have an Irish pub down there in Fairfax. Right. So I headed down there.
Sorry, I digressed a minute, but I just thought of that. Well, happy St. Patrick's Day, Steve Richardson. Anyway, so the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, though, is that you've really connected a lot of different softwares that you use.
Yes.
Not just DSS. DSS is one of them. You also use Clio for your case management and your client management, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
case management. Mm-hmm.
You're right. And like many lawyers do, many law firms use probably the most popular case management software, which we connect to in DSS. I don't know if anybody knew that, but we do, and Steve uses it. Actually, a lot of people use it, but we have an API that connects right to it. Mm-hmm. But you also use Ruby,
Mhm.
Would be receptionist, which is a call center that takes your intake when you're not available, correct?
Yeah, they answer the phone. I have it on rollover call forwarding. So if I can't get to it, or I'm in a meeting or whatever in court, Ruby will pick up the phone. Or if I'm on the phone, by the time they talk to the person, maybe I'm off, they try to put it through. So it salvages some of those calls that I might have missed. And they're also able to do a little bit of intake.
That's cool. And they've been doing that. Now, everybody knows Ruby Receptionist. That's a very popular,
Mhm.
well uh, managed group of, and I think they have 4,500 lawyers, law firms that they work with, if not more.
Mhm.
And they're a fantastic group of people to work with. We work with them. We have lots of clients that work with them. I know you've been with them for many years. And you can customize your script, what they say, right? You can work with them. They'll work with you.
Yeah, there was a setup process where we went through and talked about how I wanted my phone answered, what kind of information I wanted. And one of the great things that I do and figured out was that if I'm not available and it's a new client caller, they can gather information on that caller that I tell them this is the information I need. And they basically fill out a web form, and that information drops right into DSS. What happens is I have an unindexed page on my website, which means for your listeners that Google can't find it. You have to know what the link is to get the page to come up. So that page is basically an instruction sheet for the receptionist on how to fill out the form, what information to get, how to answer certain basic questions. And then it has basically an offer form, like you would have an offer form on your website. And they fill out that offer form, the name, the zip code, which gives me an idea of where they are geographically, a telephone number, an email address, and the type of matter they're calling on. And if I
It's
can't take the
basically your
call,
contact form. It's your
right.
contact. Yeah.
And and the great thing is it drops right into DSS. So I don't have to do that. It automatically is placed. I get an email alert, and then the caller gets an email that say they're calling on bankruptcy, and they can't speak to me. As soon as that form is filled out, they will get an email saying, "Hey, sorry, I couldn't take your call. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But in the meantime, here are some resources on my website and information that may answer some of your questions while
Yeah.
you're waiting for my call."
Yep.
So that is a huge open rate of those emails.
What did you say? That's a huge open rate. Did everybody
Yes.
hear that? That's something that's brilliant that Steve Richardson is doing. That's something you probably learned from Business Black Ops, and because that's something and I know you've been doing it for a while, and everybody does it in Business Black Ops. But Ty and Crandall and I were just talking about that. But the fact that even if you're not available, like so many things just happen right away. Like people call up, okay, you're not available. We'll get right back to you. But then they get an email from you right away.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's been put in the system, and here's your offers. And you said there's a huge open rate, because that's the time to strike, right? When people are interested. And now you've got them going to your website. You got them, they're probably filling out other forms. You said a good open rate to go to, go get your book offers and whatnot. So that's great. That's brilliant. And does that, when they use when they use your web form, which is just a contact form.
Yeah, as you know, in DSS, you have the ability to build an offer form that may if you're downloading a book or report or whatever, it's the same idea, except it just drops the information into DSS, saves me from doing the data entry myself, and provides a 0-day email. So people that have that instant gratification need, I may not be able to call them back right away. I do as soon as I can, but no matter what, they're getting a response from me that may scratch an itch or help answer a burning question that they have. So in a way, I did get back to them.
And this turns into cases and clients, right?
Yes.
Yes. Emphatically, he's yes. This works, everybody. It works. And then on top of that, so now it is in DSS. So that means that this lead and potential client, or perhaps a client, is now in the CRM of DSS.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're emailing them, and now you're working with them. But also, do they get put into Clio at that point as well? Or when do they get connected to Clio?
Well, Tom, they get into Clio if I open a file.
Okay.
So if that lead becomes a client, then I filled out all the information in DSS. All I have to do is literally go into that entry, flip a switch, and hit save. And that information, sometimes in the time it takes me to switch in my browser from DSS over to Clio and type the name in, that information's already in Clio. So then I go in, the contact and client information is already there, and I just create the case entry. And it's a bidirectional sync. So if at some point during representation of that client, their phone number, their address, their email changes, that goes back into DSS.
Oh, wow.
So it helps to keep everything in sync and working with each other.
You hear that, everybody? That's pretty cool, man. It's pretty cool. Well, and we made that work for you.
Mm-hmm.
You were the first guy. You pioneered that whole thing. And it works very well. How long has that been? Have you had that functionality going on, Steve?
I think you've had that functionality, and I've used it for close to a year. I think it was before the pandemic that the feature was there, and it just saves time.
Yeah,
and that is, time is something we as attorneys don't have, and whatever you can do to automate or simplify your job and spend that much less time, the better.
Well, plus, I mean, like, you're a solo guy. I mean, you're doing it, so it's great for you. So it's fantastic for solo, for guys like yourself that need every minute, every moment of time in this. And it also cuts down on errors, on data entry errors. You're only doing it really once, flowing in, and then you have a record that is connected between Clio and DSS and your client record there.
Mm-hmm.
And you've just it's just brilliant how you've done that.
Well, when you're just one guy and you're DIY and you're doing everything, you're not only working in your business, you're working on your business. I mean, I have a virtual assistant now, and she's taking some of the load off. But even then, the more you can do to automate, to save time in your practice and tools and everything. And there's some other tools that I have that I use that just save me an immense amount of time.
I hope that people hear this podcast and our phones start blowing up to get this implemented, because it doesn't, I don't think this costs anything. Did it cost anything? You just
I'm sorry, which does what cost
to do this?
We've talked about so much.
I know.
Well, you don't charge extra for the Clio integration.
We do not charge for the Clio connectivity. Right. We do not charge for adding forms. So no, there's no cost to do it. It just immediately makes you more efficient, right?
And Ruby already knows how to do it. Right. And you can, because they already do it for me. They're already filling out the form, and to an extent, it makes it easier for them because they don't need to send a separate email with the phone message. DSS sends me the email saying you've got this message from this person that called.
More efficiency.
Right.
More efficiency. And we're going to do a podcast interview of Katie, I think, at Ruby here coming up in the next few months. So that'll be good. They're really, but even if you're using Ruby, or if you have your own people answering the phone, or if you're answering the phone yourself, if you don't have any of that, this is still going to help you out tremendously and make your life so much easier. So please take advantage of this. If you want to talk to Steve a little bit more about how he does it, Steve, you don't mind if they give you a buzz, right?
I don't know.
Your email is
Steve@richardsonlawoffices.com.
We'll put that down in the description, and we'll put, we won't put your phone number down there. We'll make them send you an email, and we'll put your website down there. They can find you that way. Right. And they can test the system themselves, right?
Well, I'd certainly be happy to send them, a link to to the page that Ruby uses, so they get an idea of what I do and how we set it up. And that's the beauty of it, whether you use Ruby or one of their competitors, or it's just your own in-house staff or virtual assistant. It's a web-based form that's tied to DSS. So if you have a Foster website, you just plug that in and it drops right into your system.
By the way, just to extend on this conversation, the API for Clio works for any kind of contact that comes in. So it could be a web form contact, a phone contact that comes in, like what you're describing, Steve, on the phone. The Ruby person puts in the information, but they could also come into an engaged chat or a Apex chat or whatever chat you have set up. However they come into your website, we can connect them so they flow into Clio if you're using Clio as your case management.
And that raises a good point, because Clio, Ruby does have a Clio integration.
Yeah.
And that's one of the great things I like about Clio. One of the reasons, and there are different case management systems, depending upon the type of practice
we've got
what you
other
like.
And too. Yep.
But what I liked about Clio, and one of the reasons that made the difference for choosing them, was all the integrations that they have, all the different platforms they work with. And when it comes to cloud-based systems, tying them all together so that they work together is very important.
Well, because time is critical. You need to have all these pieces work together. You're the perfect. This is what they're made for. You know, is solo. Well, not just made for solo guys, but this is what they're perfect for. If solo guys like yourself learn how to use all these systems,
right?
And of course, we can help you guys. So, Steve, I have a signature question that I'm to ask of you at the end of every podcast. And here it is. What is your worst marketing mistake or failure? And then the second part of the question is, of course, what is the best thing you ever did marketing-wise? This is the world of marketing. So we talk about your worst and your best.
Well, I think the worst is, to an extent, not stopping something soon enough that didn't work.
An example of that.
The phone book. I mean, I got out of the phone book. I mean, but I guess it's one of the best too, because I did track it for as long as I can remember. I would track and say, and I use QuickBooks. I would just mark in QuickBooks, where did this client come from? How much, how did I get them? And if it was the phone book, I would tag it that way. And I got rid of one of them that came in for the renewal. And I just said, you've not brought me one single client this year, not one. And it was a really easy decision. And I knew that because I measured it, because I kept track of where the business is coming from.
Another glorious point that Steve Richardson has made on this call is that he tracks everything. How do you know if something is working or not unless you're tracking it? So don't lie to yourself like most people do. Most businesses lie to themselves, and they spend money on something and they think that, oh, because I spent money on that, that's where it's all coming from, when in fact it's probably not. And so, as Steve, you know this to be true, law firms are notorious about this, not tracking where they're spending their marketing dollars. So that was great. Is that your best too, that you tracked it?
I'm sorry, is that what?
Was that your best? Your worst was the...
Well, I think it's kind of the worst. I kept me around a little bit longer than I should have.
Right.
But my best decision, I kept... if something's not working, I try to cut up, but also I know if I need to move on. I knew I needed to move on from my previous website host, mainly because when I met to renew with them, I brought up 3 or 4 things that I wanted to do on my website, and I got a blank look. And no way, I want to do this. I want to do. Can you do that? I want to do this. And as you say, I'm a do-it-yourselfer. I wanted to add content to my website. How do I do that? Well, So, but we're talking about tracking, Tom, and your listeners should also know that with foster websites, and whether it's a foster website or not, you should do this. You give them a tracking number, a telephone number. So the telephone number on my website, on the banner, and a lot of the places is this tracking number.
Yeah.
So if someone found out about me from my website, they will call that number, and that will get logged in DSS.
Yep.
You see that those calls come in. So that's every part of my morning routine is to look through the DSS and see what new contacts have come through and make sure they're tagged correctly and things like that.
That's exactly right. You want to see, you want to have a different phone number. In many cases, you want to have a different phone number on your website. We have a different phone number for everything that we do.
Yes.
And so, yeah, if you guys are looking for more phone numbers, which all of you should get, so you could use them for tracking, we can provide those for you at FWM. Because Steve's 100% right. You should have a unique number for your website. That way, they called from the website. If you do some kind of big mailing campaign, you should have a unique phone number for that direct mail campaign. So, I dropped 10 grand on this direct mail campaign. I have this unique number to now measure the success of it. Mm-hmm. This is basic stuff. But,
or you could, you put it, you register a domain or a subdomain for a landing page and put that in your ad. And then you just measure the analytics for how many visitors you get to that page, because that indicates whether people are clicking through and whether the ad's working. So, I mean, it's basic stuff from, Bill Glazer and Dan Kennedy. Don't do anything in your marketing that you can't track and that you can't measure, because otherwise you're never going to know if it's really working.
That's right. You got to measure it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Steve Richardson, it is great to see you. It is great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time today. Everybody, this man knows everything about DSS. He is probably the most prolific power user of DSS that we have in terms of clients, that knows everything about it and has been responsible for many, many improvements, and also finding bugs. Steve is like the bug finder of DSS for us. He's like what are those guys what are they called? That
exterminators?
Yeah, you are the bug exterminator for DSS.
Oh my.
You never stop. And thank you, my friend. And happy St. Patrick's Day. Everybody, thank you so much. It's Tom and Steve at the World of Marketing. We will see you next time. Hang tight, Steve.
Mm-hmm.